Even Amazon had a bunch of half-empty trucks going back and forth. How many times it happens to you that you order shampoo and it comes in like a giant box and it's like 80% empty airspace? And this still is a problem. It's still unsolved for various reasons. I had this epiphany: if Amazon's so sophisticated and there's so many problems, how does the world look outside of Amazon?
Welcome to the Control-Alt-Gab podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walters. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of the Control-Alt-Gab podcast. I am your host, Gabrielle, and I am joined by the wonderful Tomas today. He is the founder of Perseuss. We are going to dive into all things AI-powered cartonization. We're going to talk about growth. We're going to talk about tech. We're going to talk about pigeons, probably. All of the important stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today, David.
Thank you, Gabrielle, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Okay, right off the bat, I'd love to get you to speak to the origin story of Perseuss. It's an awesome and powerful name. You guys have a super strong brand. I'm really excited to hear what inspired you to start Perseuss, what inspired you to get into this parcel packaging, shipping industry, and yeah, what did the beginning few days look like for you?
Yeah, so before that, we need to rewind what I was doing before Perseuss to give you like. Well, first of all, I worked 5 years at Amazon in like technology for supply chain, right? Like, how does Amazon move, billions of packages a year? And what kind of software does Amazon use to do that? I worked on bits and pieces of that for 5 years. A little bit in Europe, mostly in Seattle. And before that, I was a theoretical mathematician. My upbringing and my educational trajectory all kind of converged on, applying complicated math in logistics and, moving physical stuff around. How do you use math to move stuff around? At Amazon, I worked on really cool stuff, mainly related to their internal, like trucking. How do you put stuff on a truck? How do you keep trucks fuller than they were before? How do you optimize the routes of trucks, et cetera, et cetera? Super, super cool stuff, super, super complicated math. And developed a couple of very impactful projects there. But I had this epiphany where Amazon's already really sophisticated technologically, and yet there's so much room for improvement, even at Amazon. Stuff that even Amazon had a bunch of half-empty trucks going back and forth. How many times it happens to you that you order something on Amazon and it comes in like a giant box and it's a little shampoo bottle and it's like 80% empty airspace, even at Amazon. And this still is a problem. It's still unsolved for various reasons. And I had this epiphany: if Amazon's so sophisticated and there's so many problems, how does the world look outside of Amazon? What about all the smaller one facility, small company warehouses look like? It has to be even more chaos there. I left Amazon with this kind of a vague vision of, okay, I'm going to use my technological skill set to help companies save money and make their supply chains more efficient on some sort of like a consulting basis. And then I did a few smaller projects, and then I bumped into this guy called Andrew from New Jersey. At the time, I was still in Seattle doing my own thing, consulting and stuff. But I bumped into this guy, Andrew, and he was like, "Hey, I have this warehouse and I have this problem with packing and shipping, and I think I'm overpaying on shipping, and I have some softwares in my warehouse, but none of them know how to solve this. Do you want to have a look at it?" And I took a look at it, and I wrote a preliminary simulation, and I found, wow, like, this guy's leaving a lot of money on the table. Eventually, we went back and forth around like how to structure the engagement, and essentially I realized two things. Number one, okay, this problem is not going to get solved if I'm some remote consultant from Seattle. I need to be on the ground in the warehouse, essentially living and breathing and sleeping in the warehouse to make sure this works. And number two, this problem. If this random distribution company in New Jersey has this problem, there's a high likelihood that a bunch of other companies that move stuff have this packing problem. Both of these assumptions turned out to be true, which I didn't know at the time. I blindly booked a one-way ticket from Seattle to Newark, New Jersey, and yeah, I've been here almost 2 years now. The original contract with that company was very successful. They're still with us. We save them mid six figures every year. They're super happy. And ever since then, we've onboarded a few clients. We have some big pilots too. And it's still a lot of building, but it's also about how do we sell what we've built and into other warehouses and this whole
Mm.
B2B supply chain. It's a whole new game that tech geek like me wasn't really aware of, but
Mhm.
into that. We got a few full-time employees. We got a bunch of interns now recently. It's very fun. Like now things are starting to really get interesting.
Mm. Yeah. You've achieved that critical growth at the beginning, and that's, helping you lay the framework, and now you're like, the world's our freaking oyster. Now
That's
we
exactly right. I read this quote somewhere. Companies don't really die of lack of ideas. There's always like a gazillion ideas, right? It's the lack of execution. Now I'm kind of like all these customers, existing, paying, and prospective customers, they all have different variations of this packing problem, and disseminating what is really the core thing, our core competency, because there's like 50 different angles that I could pursue with this product, but only one or two are good. So that's where I'm at right now, but it's
Mhm.
it's really exciting.
Yeah. I think that just by nature of starting a company based on an issue that you've seen in the industry through working at a level in, the biggest name in the game,
Right.
know the problem so intimately. Where my brain automatically went is through your discussion of everything that you realize working through Amazon. And that issue you said with the shampoo bottle in the giant box, like we've all been there.
Yeah,
Or multiple things coming at the same time but in completely different packaging. And you're like, there's got to be a way to do this. The
absolutely.
implications beyond just folks leaving money on the table, spending too much on shipping costs, all of these inefficiencies. There's also massive, like I see this for small businesses being able to streamline their, exports massively, reduce their costs for, packaging immensely, beyond the issue of these huge, massive warehouses sending out, hundreds of thousands of things a day to a million different places. There's also, the startup conversation where if companies can, at the onset, infuse this into the structure of their business, that's one issue that is not really ever going to present itself to them. And that's huge. A question too I have, how old is Perseus? When did you guys, what year did you guys officially start and get off the ground?
2024,
Nice.
early
So
2024.
nice. And right now, your customers, are you finding it's more folks in that startup space, small businesses, or is it the Amazons of the world that you're going after, or that are finding you organically?
I wish we're getting there, but um, no, Amazon's not gonna pick up my phone yet. These bigger guys, they're not gonna pick up my phone yet, and that's fine. The way I see it is you need to like earn the opportunity. Bigger companies like to do business with bigger companies, and there's certain milestones we need to hit before any of these bigger guys are gonna even remotely be interested in this, and that's fine. There's a clear stepping stone trajectory that we're now hitting. But we're working with multiple F100s, Fortune 100s, that they're interested in like piloting stuff. I connected with them on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is by far my best channel. They've seen the content, they've seen the website, they've spoken to us, they met us in person at trade shows, and they shared data with us. We ran simulations for them, and the ROI is a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer to at least test it, right? That's what these companies are doing. I guess my answer to this is we have a full spectrum. We have smaller guys. We have medium sized. My first customer here in New Jersey, it's a single facility, but they do, 9-figure revenue from that one facility, and they're doing very well. They need a very specific custom tailor service that we built for them. We have a few customers like that. And then we have these enterprise clients. And it's with each of these segments, the game is a little bit different. The smaller guys, they're very price sensitive. They're like these 3PLs or smaller brands. They're running on thin margins. Their volume is not really that big. They see us mainly as a nice to have rather than a critical thing because frankly, they have bigger fish to fry. They need to like close more business themselves rather than optimize their operations. These guys, we were able to close and offer like a very turnkey, easy deployment solution in collaboration with third-party partnerships. We can't build custom software for these guys at the price point that they're looking at. And then on the other hand, these bigger guys, they have bigger volumes, they have bigger budgets, and they also have more complex operations. But once we run the ROI on their volumes, it's a complete no-brainer. Like suddenly, it doesn't really make sense to say no, because our simulations we show very detailed breakdowns of where exactly the money is hanging and how we plan to extract it. It's very clear from the beginning. These bigger companies, they're used to paying millions for these other supply chain softwares. So it's like the price sensitivity there is way less, and we're able to, they need custom stuff, but they have budget to make it worth it for everyone to take that generic core and add on these custom integrations that they need for their specific. Maybe they have some homegrown IT system where their inventory data is. We have no problem building those plugins for the big guys. But for the smaller guys, we generally need a third-party partner that's already in there. It's called warehouse management system, or it's like ERP, or there's other players that sell to these smaller guys. If we can piggyback on top of their infrastructure and be almost act as like a white label, right? They're using our cartonization service without the customer even really knowing that we're parties there. That's where we can serve the small guy. But knocking on doors on the small guys alone hasn't really been a successful sales strategy for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you already know that you're going to frequently get that same issue, it makes sense really to pivot your ICP to just a generally bigger size without being that
Oh,
huge, massive Amazon size enterprise level
sure.
client until you have the brand awareness, have the authority built, have the case studies in place to be able to go after them.
Yeah, these big guys like Amazon, because their tech teams are so big. I mean, they spend billions in salaries of software engineers. When they look at a smaller tech company like me, the question is always going to be, can I rebuild this? Yeah.
Mm,
And even though the answer is like probably yes, but it'll take you like a long time, they're convincing the person that's the case. Convincing that person that investing in a third-party solution is better is just like very hard for them.
yeah.
But there's a lot of big companies, billion-dollar companies that don't really have a tech team that's solving niche tech problems, and they're happy to at least explore third-party vendors for specific niche problems that they know they're bleeding money.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And is there any consistent industry that you find beyond industries that utilize warehouses and are sending things out at high rates? But have you noticed any pattern with regards to touch points on LinkedIn and stuff like that from certain industries more than others?
Yes, we love distributors. We love distributors, or we love working directly with brands, consumable products, or apparel, or distributors of said brands, or distributors of all kinds of things. Auto parts distributors are good. Consumable products. That's the best niche. That's the niche where we can provide the best ROI because a couple of factors. Number one, our customer, like the people we serve, those are the people that have a warehouse and they move stuff from their warehouse to other people or other people's warehouses. You're our customer if you have a warehouse, right? And you're shipping stuff, FedEx, UPS, USPS, or you're putting stuff on pallets. But we're not conquering the whole TAM immediately, right? We're niching down. And the people where the ROI is really good are distributors or brands that have their own fulfillment, that have multi-channel distribution and own their inventory and own their carrier rates. Right. And the reason that's important is we work with 3PLs too. 3PL means third party logistics. It means I have a warehouse and other people, brands like Nike, but let's say, new internet brands. A guy selling shampoos out of his garage. At some point, the guy's business explodes on Shopify or Amazon. Now he needs to make a painful decision. Either he hires a bunch of people and rents out a warehouse and does fulfillment himself from a dedicated facility, or he outsources that to a different company that already has a warehouse and then pays them per operation. The second case, that company that does this sort of fulfillment on behalf of other people's brands is called a 3PL. Our potential customer could be the brand with a warehouse, has its own inventory and has its own operations, or it could be the 3PL, right? That has a bunch of people's brands in their warehouse. Now, generally what happens is if a brand has its own warehouse and its own inventory, it's vertically integrated. It owns its Shopify store, it owns its warehouse, and it owns its fulfillment. Then cool things happen when I go in with my software, because I generally save money. My value proposition is my algorithm tells your packers what's the cheapest way to pack it with respect to your carrier rates. Every dollar that you save, that's dollar that you don't pay the postal service. It goes directly into their EBITDA, right? And you can do whatever you want with it. A 3PL often is not shipping on their own account, but they're shipping on the account of their brand. The brand is essentially telling them, okay, I'm going to ship a pallet worth of shampoos to you once a month, and here's my USPS login, and use my USPS account to ship these shampoos as orders come on my Shopify. And they might have a bunch of brands like this, and they just do that. And they send that in an invoice to the brand. Now, the problem is that the brand owns the carrier account, the USPS or UPS. I go in and I'm like, I'm going to save you a lot of money. Once they're like, well, actually, I don't really own that UPS account, is not mine. So you're saving money for my customer. And they're like, yeah, I don't really care about that much. So they're going to care about it when they're bidding on a brand. When they're going through their RFP, that's when these guys generally call us because they want to improve their bid. But that's literally the only time they're going to care about it. Once the brand is in, they're like, whatever, So our best customers are brands that are vertically integrated. They have their inventory, they own the inventory, and they own the carrier contracts. Or it's distributors. Because again, they own the inventory, they wholesale the inventory, and then they then they deliver it. Generally, they make money by these logistical efficiencies. It's a penny crunching business. They look for ways to increase the margin.
Yeah, and then you come in saying, "Look at this."
That's exactly right. It goes straight into the margin. So that's what we do.
And I'm curious too, with how it seems like you've had a lot of success early on with your ability to speak to multiple clients at different, sizes, different industries, that kind of thing. And so beyond having, I would say, a very well-tailored offering for the issue that you're solving for these folks, what has been the secret sauce for you for being able to achieve the growth you've had so far in such a short time?
I wouldn't say short time.
I will say on the grand scheme of being to market for such a short time and being able to have the clients that you have already. Obviously, the framework was laid many years prior. For context, for all of our viewers, don't want to lead anyone to think that this is a short and easy type situation, because obviously that's not the case. But since you've been to market and actually rolling out and operating and onboarding these new clients, finding them, I'm curious what's worked well for you from go to market to present to get the traction that you've had so far.
So it's a really good question. I read this book called Traction. Have you heard about it?
I have actually heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's two startup guys. One is like an internet brand, and the other one is like a tech guy. They talk about how today in this economy, there's a gazillion ways to market your product. And they describe 16 different channels: knocking on doors, cold calling, email marketing, search engine optimization, search engine advertising, social media, and then they go and they list all of these. And then the whole point of the book is, for any startup, for any idea, There's all these gazillion ways you can market it. For a lot of ideas, they're dumb ideas, so nothing is going to work. But if your idea is good, maybe one or two channels are going to work, and then the other ones are not going to work, or they're going to work at a different stage. They describe a framework for how do you test these channels quickly, right? To like get a sense of what channel works for you. And of course, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a tech bro all my life. I've been sitting in front of a computer and like writing code, right? So this has been very new to me. What we found, so we tested a bunch of stuff. We tried writing blogs, we tried search engine optimization, we tried going to trade shows, we tried listing on platforms. In the end, we found LinkedIn is really good. LinkedIn is great. And luckily throughout my tech career too, I've invested time and effort into LinkedIn, so I have decent like following there. I've had for years now, but now it's like really getting interesting. The people that we sell to, and all the people that we could partner with, they generally hang out on LinkedIn. And so having a strong presence on LinkedIn, we found helps a lot. Now, there's a certain art to it. I feel like the last couple of months we've really nailed down the way we talk about our system and the way we position the solution with respect to what's already there, what our competitors do, that like our content and our DMs are really hitting. That wasn't always the case, but I think there's certain art and science there that we figured out. But to recap the answer, I read a book. The book said test a bunch of channels. I tested a bunch of channels. It turned out LinkedIn by far was really good. The second one that I think works very well in conjunction with LinkedIn is going in person to trade shows. Because in our industry, it's kind of this like old conservative industry. The buyers, they're scared to pull triggers on solutions, because a lot of the times you'll just see a company's making money. Why, even though it could be making more money, why like risk it, Why
Yes, the
bring
risk
in
aversion for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So supply chain, the buyers are very conservative. Being in person with people, having a booth where people that you've connected with already on LinkedIn, then people can come and check you out in person and see, oh, this guy's a real company. He has a team and wow, they have hardware demo. They can do that too. Oh my goodness. Now I'm like, okay, let's talk. Okay, now I finally take you seriously. Okay, what is it that you do again?
Yes. Yeah. When you can finally see their eyes and ears open and they accept you as a real human after that connection's made, for sure. Yeah.
Even like a year ago, my LinkedIn following was pretty decent, but I just looked like this guy that has a side project. And bigger guys don't want to work with that. Now the way we present ourselves and the way that we've been able to be in person in some of these industry leading events and shake people's hands and people play with our solution. And then these people talk and we get inbound because people refer people to us. That has sort of like fueled the recent growth, and inbound's happening more and more. There's nothing better than a good inbound. I used to have like Calendly link on my website, and I would never get a call booked.
Mm.
And now it's pretty often there's a call booked, so
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah. I think that you stumbled upon something that is so simple, but a lot of folks don't necessarily view this as important, which is that iteration testing. So
Yeah.
you start something, you focus on a couple channels, you see what works, you test your scripts, you test your strategy when you're not seeing the KPIs you want, and then you go back and you implement different things. I feel like a lot of people are like, this is going to work. So they do it, doesn't work, but they're just like, well, it's running, so that's how it's going to be. And things need to be more malleable these days, especially with how much outreach is going on and in the age of AI. Connection-based marketing is also like secret sauce, amazing, because lots of people are talking to robots a lot of time.
My
And so that
goodness.
connection-based marketing is increasingly important for getting in front of people and getting listened to too. On the other side of that coin, what has been the biggest pain point that you've experienced when trying to scale and trying to grow? Based on your other answer, it could have come from that iteration and testing for channels and campaigns that didn't work until you stumbled upon the ones that did. But I'm curious what has stuck out as a challenge and what has been your game plan for mitigating those challenges, getting through them, coming out the other side.
A big challenge early on was it sounds kind of douchey. I hope you'll excuse me. I was very lucky. I got quite a bit of success very early on with like the original customers. And especially the first customer. It was like the best customer in the world. And they're still the best customer in the world. I went from being like a corporate rat to doing a few projects as a consultant to then like having the best ever customer for this like SaaS offering and almost enterprise level customer. Like it was amazing. So now I'm like, I'm pretty smart. I'm doing great. What are people talking about? Business is hard. I'm killing it.
Crush it. I don't know what these people are talking about.
Yeah,
This is
like
easy.
whoever said progress is a slow process wasn't talking about me.
Whoever said progress is a slow process wasn't running, you know?
Right. That's
Yeah.
right. Had this amazing contract. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I just need to um find a few of these more contracts and I'm like set for life, right? And then I figure out slowly and painfully that that original contract was I was very lucky to get that, right? That I found like a very special customer that was like big and they had leadership that wanted more improvement and the leadership was trusting enough to let a guy who's just starting out do something. And they're amazing people to work with. I was at a point where I had a functioning software and happy customer as testimonial, but the branding wasn't really working and I didn't quite fully understand how to talk about it yet. And all these conversations that I had, people were kind of confused. People were like, what is it that you're solving? Are you similar to this guy or that guy? And I'm like, my goodness, how is it that this thing that I built is so valuable to this one customer and no one else gives a crap about it? Like, how could this be? And that's when that was a big challenge for me. And in parallel, I was going through learning the natural cyclicity of the industry, which is like Q3, Q4, people really don't do stuff in supply chain because like they're getting ready for like, Christmas time where most of these brands and the corresponding logistics providers make most of their money in like November, December. It's very important that everything goes well during those 2 months. So no one wants to do an implementation in October or no one cares. I didn't know that at the time. Like, I'm booking all these calls and I'm pitching all these people and people no show me, people ghost me, everyone's told me how great this is, but then they never reply to my email. And then something magical happens. January comes, 2025, and I hire a person to help with the marketing. And only now the website, the company looks like a company. And at the same time, Q4 ended. So now people have budgets. They have margin after the Q4, right, that they need to deploy. And they have lessons learned from the Q4 that they want to like get better at. So all the people that were ghosting me in 2024, now they were like, hey, they see me at this trade show, they see my new website, and they're like, hey, that's you. Oh, let's talk now. I think the biggest pain point was just like me being naive and ignorant about how hard selling actually is and how there's all these little variables that you need to control for. I was just so lucky in the beginning that I didn't really even care about, but now I pay very close attention to.
It's nice to see the fulsome discussion of getting success early on. And then you're like, this is so easy. This was amazing. I got this amazing client. Clearly the vertical's a good fit. I have the correct solution, all this stuff. But then trying to replicate and duplicate that success with other clients, not behaving the same way. You're like, what's going on? And so, yeah, it links back to that test and iterate conversation. When you bring this marketing person on to support, has there been, tangible improvements in
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Growth in LinkedIn. Then the whole perception of the company. We have a color palette now. We have a pigeon now. Like I have a LinkedIn cover that's branded, which before, in my logical tech bro brain, who gives a crap about my LinkedIn banner? Turns out the LinkedIn banner is very important.
Matters a ton. Yeah. More than you'd ever think.
It's a difference between a guy who's just starting out and the feeling of like, oh, this is a guy who's still confused and doesn't know what he's doing, to like, these guys have a plan.
Yeah.
These guys could probably help me, you know, and it sounds silly, but it's so true. So
And there's so much psychology on that side of things that I think technical folks such as yourself, that's not how your brain works. You're focused on your offering and building the software and writing the code and all the stuff. Human psychology behind marketing and sales and selling your product isn't something that's going to be top of mind. And it's also hard to measure those things that are a little bit more
oh my goodness, yes.
right. You're like, how was I supposed to know that a LinkedIn banner was going to be the difference between this deal closing and this deal not closing? That's crazy because there's a whole like universe behind why those things matter. And it's linked to sociology, human psychology, the market, behavioral patterns of people
So
using
many
LinkedIn
things.
personally versus business wise. There's so much that goes into it. And it's one of those things where I feel like once you start pulling the yarn, the whole sweater disappears. You're like, how is this everything that went into this? That's not how I conceptualized it at all. So
It's also like poor bootstrapped founder, right? The first time when I was preparing to present at these exhibit at these trade shows. Right?
mhm.
How do these things cost like 20K for a tiny little spot in the corner? The market's not stupid. It cannot be not valuable if people are paying so much money for it, right? So, and it totally is. Like once you exhibit there and you see those same people who ghosted you on LinkedIn for months now come up to you and be like, "Hey, what is it that you're doing? Oh, that's cool. Oh, here's my business card. Let's schedule a meeting." Then you realize, okay, I get it now. I get
Mhm.
why these things matter, and they matter a lot. You just look at the price tags of these booths and
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. Yeah, you see it later down the line, it all comes together and you're like, that's why these things matter. The picture's complete.
And it's also these trade shows and how they feed very well into LinkedIn. What I've discovered is because you go there and you schmooze around with all the potential partners and customers. But then if you have one guy there whose only job is to make videos, then that's great content for LinkedIn. And it again makes you look official. You're not posting just a text or a picture or something. You're posting a video of you and your team at this very, very expensive and official event. Like you have to be at least a little important, right? That's
Mhm.
sort of the psychology there. People suddenly take you way more seriously. It's so much learning. Another learning that that I learned the hard way was that once I really nailed down the contract with the original customer and then, went out there, out in the wild to find more business. I was like, okay, I need to sell. I need to sell. I need to sell. And I do what the typical thing that the tech bros do, which is go buy all the books and read the books. I'm practicing my pitches. And then I realized something that sounds pretty trivial, which is you can't sell if there's no one to sell to, if there's no one listening to your pitch.
Wall is not gonna buy anything from you.
Exactly. So if the top of funnel is empty, it doesn't matter how good your pitch is, right? The saying that, it's all a numbers game applies so well. I've heard that saying many times, right? But now I truly understand what it means. And what it means is that if your top of funnel is empty, you're definitely not going to sell.
Yeah, and the top of the funnel is the biggest part of the funnel. So if that's empty, the narrowest part of the funnel, like that's so far away.
You're done. A lot of the stuff we do is like B2B big ticket sales. Like there needs to be the top of the funnel. There needs to be like people going in. There
Mhm.
needs to be calls. There need to be demos scheduled. And then, and a lot of the time it's before you even sell, how do you qualify those leads? Not every meeting you have is a person who's like excited to hear your pitch. Not at all. Actually, vast majority of people don't care.
Yeah, lots and lots of people don't care. Yeah.
Actually, most of the world doesn't care about your thing. If you're Amazon, okay, like a lot of people use Amazon. But if you're a startup founder and you're solving a niche problem for a niche subset of the world, most people you're gonna talk to are gonna be like, counting time to get off the phone with you. How do you make those conversations a little bit productive? A lot of times you get on a call, and especially early on, I was kind of confused. Everyone was like supply chain solutions, la la la. And so then you don't really know, is this a guy with a warehouse or is this a consultant for warehouses? Consultants are always the worst, right? They can't buy anything from you, right? And they're also very good at hiding it, right? You don't really know that someone's a consultant until you get on a call with them. But then once you identify that they're not your ICP, okay, what are other productive things that you guys can do on that call before you hop
Mhm.
off? Well, maybe there's some sort of referral agreement that you guys can have. Or, okay, we realize we both sell to the same people. Maybe I can sell to your guys and you can sell to my guys. So do some cross introductions, because vast majority of, like I said, majority of those meetings are just going to be not your ICPs. So how do you make productive time of those non-ICP meetings? I found is really, is also helpful, really helpful. But all of this, the compounding, it just takes time. There's a bunch of conversations that I've had, and just because I was nice to the guy and I maybe introed him to someone, or gave him like a little bit of my brain to help him with something, a few months later, he introed me to an actual ICP, right? And these are all things that when you're a starting entrepreneur, in the moment, it's very hard to keep top of mind, but it's good to keep doing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we are nearing the end of our time here. So I just want to say thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us today. We got some great insights and it was really awesome to hear your story. I think that the trajectory of your business from go-to-market to present is definitely a unique one. And there's not a ton of folks in this space. It's really great to hear from a young founder about, what's gone well and what's going to happen moving forward. I'm excited to see all of the great stuff that Perseuss does and all of the big contracts that you land in the future, because you have a super strong business, amazing brand. You guys are solving a huge problem. It was such a great opportunity to be able to chat with you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Control Alt Gab podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.